It's going. Well, let's get the right screen up then. Good morning, everybody. We're out there chatting away, and I wasn't paying attention to the time, and completely went, oh, look, oops, it's time to be on the air. I go, how much time do I have left? He goes, I don't know, it's not showing how much time you have left. Why doesn't it? Oh, it doesn't show that because we're past start time. So there you go. Hey, so I'm live. We are back to my ATEM switcher. We are back to my normal setup here. It's good to be home. And get rid of this thing. And I'm also simultaneously streaming to Facebook today. So if you happen to be on Facebook right now and you're watching it there and going, well, this is different. I haven't seen this in a while. That's why. So I'm still using the Pearl because they haven't taken it back yet. But I'm using the Pearl just to do the streaming. So I set up two separate channels on it. It is encoding one stream for YouTube and another stream for Facebook, sending them off separately. So we're playing. You know, we got the toys. We may as well play with it. So that's that. Good morning, everybody. Looking at the live chat filling up quickly here. I see someone is asking about the GH5. So it's arriving today. Could be here any minute. So that's awesome. I'm super excited about that. The unit that I'm getting is still pre-production, but apparently the body is full production quality, and the firmware to go shipping firmware is available. So I will be installing that when I get it. So I should have, as far as I know, the equivalent of a fully shipping camera. Super stoked about that. So let's see here, what else? Let's see what else is in the comments here. Good day to everyone. Hello, Jess. Hello, Cobblesticks. Looking forward to this. Today will not be with the GH5. I'm sorry, today, because I don't have it yet. So today will not be with the GH5, but we'll get there soon. We'll get there. Sully, good morning. Mark, good morning. John Moby, greetings from the UK. Your GH5 is arriving in a week. Wow. This is going to be cool to see how many people get their GH5s, you know, when their resellers telling them they will. I have zero idea. I have not been updated on shipping status or any of that. So hopefully what you're getting is accurate. But who knows? Jordan, good morning. Good to see you here, buddy. So let's see here. Let me get the right screen up over here, and then we will do an official start to the show and get this thing rolling. Get the right room in here. All right. That's it. Good. Okay. Super. So let's make this show an official start. Good morning and welcome to PhotoJoseph's Photo Moment. I'm your host, PhotoJoseph. Welcome to the first live daily photography show on YouTube, and today also on Facebook. 9:30 a.m. Pacific every weekday. At least that's the plan. If you're watching this recorded, try and tune in live sometime. It's a lot of fun. We got a bunch of people tuning in live. We get to participate in a chat, and it's awesome. Trevor says send reindeer. I don't know what that means. Good morning, Dennis. Good morning, John, Trevor. Now, see, people are debating it. So if you missed the pre-roll show, the GH5, one person said their GH5 is supposed to arrive in a week, and other people are going, what? I haven't heard anything on mine. I have no idea when they're actually shipping, so fingers crossed that that's accurate. That would be fantastic, but I don't know. A rumor has it they'll be in hand on the 23rd in the UK. Man, that is cool. That is soon. Okay, so today's photo moment is about white balance. One of these seemingly very simple things, and it is really simple. Oh, I had a really good prop idea and I totally forgot to set it up. Oh well. This photo moment is gonna be a little bit infomercially in the sense of, you know, you get those infomercials like, I can't possibly drink out of this cup without spilling on myself. It's kind of one of those. I was gonna have a cup with stuff in it, and anyway. Because it's kind of hard to do this wrong, but I wanna show you that you can do it wrong and show you the way to make sure you always get it right. That's basically what this comes down to. The question of the day is, should you use a white surface to do a white balance or a gray surface? And this came up because I had done a white balance on some other video here, and someone commented, oh, I didn't know that you could use the gray. And I thought that occurred to me that, hey, this is actually a really good topic. So let me just first explain the difference and why it matters, and then we're going to look at it practically. And if you have never done a custom white balance before, we're going to do it, and we're going to do it both with my old Canon 5D Mark II, and we're going to do it with a Lumix GX8. And we actually can see through the Canon as well. I kind of got that rigged up. So I have no idea if the interface has changed on the Canon. I haven't used a modern Canon in quite a few years. I mean, this is, when did I buy this camera? 2009, I think. So this is getting there in the years. But it should be the same. And then from this, I think you'll figure out how to do this on any camera that you've got. And basically, I think that it's safe to say that any camera with an interchangeable lens has custom white balance options. If you can't find it, it probably means you just haven't found it yet. I'd be really surprised if there's any modern camera with interchangeable lens that doesn't have the functionality that we're going to be looking at today. So let's see where we're going to start. We're going to start with just a bit of theory. So as you undoubtedly have seen, when you're doing a white balance, if you look at the histogram on your image that you've shot a gray card, white card, whatever, you know that it's perfectly in balance because the red, green, and blue marks on the histogram, the peaks on the histogram, are in the same place. If they're offset, then you've got too much red, too much blue, too much green, or not enough, whatever. You've got too much of one, not enough of another. When they're all even, that means that you have white balance. Okay, that's simple when you're photographing something that is neutral. Now, neutral is the important key here. It's not that you're photographing something white or black, it's that it's neutral. Now, you technically could do a white balance off of a black card, but for the same reasons that you generally want to avoid doing it off of white, with black it's even more prevalent because black will absorb all kinds of crazy colors and not show them back. The reason that you don't want to generally use white if you can avoid it, and I'm going to say this, if you can avoid it, you absolutely, if this all you have is white, then use it. It's better than doing nothing. It's certainly better than photographing a gray wall and going, I think that's gray. This might be gray. It might also have a little bit of blue or green tint to it. I don't know. I have done white balance off of white walls, hoping they're white. I've done them off of the street, hoping it's neutral gray. Sometimes you got to use what you got. You just do what's available and you make the best of it. If you don't like the image the way it looks on screen, you can tweak the white balance a little bit. Obviously, you can fix it in post as well, but our objective is always to get it as clean out of the camera as possible. So the reason that you don't generally want to white balance off of white is because of this RGB idea. Think of the red, green, and blue, the red, green, and blue histogram. All lined up in a row. Your red, your green, blue. So there's your red, there's your green, there's your blue. If you're photographing your gray card, if this is your histogram, you're properly exposed, your red, green, and blue are going to be boom, 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 straight up and down the middle, right? All even. If you got proper white balance, they're all even. If you have proper white balance and you're photographing something white and it's properly exposed, then it's going to be all the way to the right. Boom, boom, boom. The problem here is that if it's overexposed, right, if your white is too bright, beyond white, then you could have red or green or blue or any channel that is pushing beyond what you can see in the histogram, and you no longer know if it's actually white balanced. So you might see a little bit of red, a little bit of green, a little bit of blue and think, okay, it's all white balanced. But the fact is that the red is actually pushed way out here, the green's here, the blue's a little bit back. And now you don't have accurate white balance. By white balancing off of a gray card, then you know, because you have plenty of room on the left and the right, the dark and the highlights in the histogram, you know for a fact that it is all perfectly lined up. That's the basic theory of why you should do it. Now that said, you can shoot a white card, and as long as it's underexposed enough so that you do have room to the right of the peaks on the histogram, that you can see that it is truly neutral, that you don't have a skew one way or the other. But again, it's just easier to just use a gray card. So if you've got one of these, then that's just the easiest way to do it. So I basically never use this side unless I'm trying to check white levels on video, or I want to photograph something white and I want to make sure that I'm white but not peaking, not blowing past the edge of the histogram, something like that. But for the most part, I just always use this. Okay, so that said, let's do a little demo on how this whole thing works. Let me get this thing set up again. It's always tricky getting this to balance. As soon as I take it down, it doesn't want to go back up. Voila, and then you can see that. We'll do this kind of nice little demo here so you can see all that. Let's take a quick look at the comments before we continue. Okay, so you guys are just so enthralled, or you've all fallen asleep, you stop commenting. Except Trevor, who says you're stuck in a blizzard. East Coast, I'm assuming. Okay, way I'm gonna do this is I've got a LED light here, a little Felix light. And this Felix light, this is so cool. I can change the color temperature on it. So this room is essentially daylight balance. Not perfect, but it's pretty close to daylight, which is 5,000 to 5,500 degrees Kelvin, give or take. That's generally the accepted daylight range. This light I can adjust. Let me show you this thing up close. This thing is so cool. If you haven't seen this thing yet, this little guy, this Felix light, so you see on the back on here, I've got my intensity, so you can see, obviously it's changing the intensity there, and I've got a white color temperature adjustment. So I can go to a warmer color or to a cooler color. So the range on this is, let's see here, 3,000 to 56? Yeah, 5,600 degrees Kelvin. If you get into the really high-end Felix lights, and by the way, Felix lights are expensive. They're really expensive LEDs, but man, they're good. They're really good quality. I'll have to do a photo moment on the Felix lights one day because these are really, I really like these guys a lot. They're really high end lights have even more finite control over the color that the light's blasting out. Anyway, so what I'm going to do here is I'm shining, let me get this thing back into place. I'm going to shine this light, let me take the intensity down a little bit. There we go, intensity down, and I'm going to change the color. So there it's quite warm. So you can see on this video, because this camera is balanced for daylight, now that I've pushed this into a much warmer tone, we're seeing that warmth show up on the gray. So you know to your eye right now that this is not right. This is not correct white balance. If I was to calibrate this camera to this card, everything else in the room would go blue and this would look normal. So in this case, we're obviously not going to do that. We are looking at a proper white balance scene with an overly warm light on here. Cool. So far, so good? Excellent. All right. Now let's see here. Oh, and by the way, again, if you're watching this live on Facebook, I'm not following the comments there. Sorry, too much going on at once. It's just a test, but if you're seeing it there, howdy and welcome. Okay. Next up, I need to, let's get this camera on. And I want to go into the menu system first on here. And let me make sure this is come up. Here we go. Go to the menu, and in the menu system, let's see here, scroll through, you have, I think it's in this, there we go, white balance, and there we go, you've got that icon, the two triangles, I guess you'd call it, that icon right there, that's your custom setting. Now, this camera has one custom setting, I don't know, more modern ones might have more than that, the Lumix has several, and so this is where your run through, right? So there's auto, your daylight approximately 5200, and so on and so on and so on. So there's custom, but you have to, and you can do like dial in the color temperature as well, but that's not, we're not interested in that. We're interested in this guy, full custom. Okay, but before you can use custom, you have to actually set the custom. So let me go back, figure out how to do that again. I haven't used this camera in so long. There we go, back a level. Custom white balance. What this is gonna ask is for me to take a picture. Oh man, that, okay, that tells you how long it's been since I've used this. That picture that was just up on screen, which is what happens to be on this memory card, is from a lynda.com training that I did on low light nighttime photography. And I shot that training course about half with the Canon and half with Micro Four Thirds. It might have still been on the Olympus. Anyway, ancient history. Which, by the way, do check out the lynda.com training, please. Okay, now let's get back to this. So, where was I? Let's go back to here. So I need to take a picture that it uses for white balance. If I try to use this one, you see on the top left it says set. If I push set, it's going to say correct white balance may not be obtained with the selected image. And it might not even do it. Let's see what happens. Set white balance, okay. It actually did. So God only knows what white balance is there, but it's clearly wrong. Okay, so let's do this properly. So to do this properly, I need to take a picture of whatever is going to be white, should be white, and then use that to set the white balance. Now, with that said, I don't know that it matters what white balance mode you have the camera set in when you take the test photo. So I'm just going to set it to auto. So I'm just going to go in here and set it to auto white balance. Like I said, I don't know if it matters or not. It probably doesn't. It shouldn't. It shouldn't. But we're going to set it to auto white balance anyway, so we know that the picture is pretty close. Okay, so now we're going to take a picture. Let's see, I think if I do this, I can bring this camera up just like I do with my Lumix guys. Wait for that to refresh. There it is. Okay, so there's that. There's the view through the Canon. Let's zoom in tight. We want to fill the frame. We're going to focus that, at least close to focus it. And what am I in, what exposure mode I'm in? I'm in option priority. Okay, good. So this will be evenly exposed. Take a picture, and let's get off of the screen, and that's all there's to it. So now let's go back to, let me pull up the menu first, and I'll switch back to the camera, and we're going to calibrate that. Okay, that's up. Let's go back to the camera here, and wrong way. Let's go there. Here we go. Custom white balance. So now I find it. There's the picture, and I hit set. It asks me to use white balance data from this image for custom white balance. Okay, so I hit that. It tells me to set white balance to this mode. And now I should have an accurately white balanced picture. So let's try. So you can see what this looks like. You can see how warm this is. So if I was set to daylight on here, it would look like this. But I've done a custom white balance. I've set it to custom white balance. Now let's take a picture. Oh, I've got it way overexposed. That's why that was so bright, but it still said it got a white balance on it. So let me just take a quick picture here. Oh, I've still got the live view on. Let's get rid of that. take a picture and pre-play that. And I will switch back over to it once it comes up on the screen. There we go. And there, I would say that is an accurate white balance. So you see the image, it looks clean, and nicely enough, in the histogram over on the right, you see the RGB histogram, and obviously we've got a lot of black in the scene. There's even some peaking highlights in the scene, but the primary part of the photo, that gray card, you can see nicely evenly distributed in there. So let me do one more picture with this. So I'll go back to this mode. Come on, camera, wake up. There we go. Let's zoom in tighter here. We want to fill the frame, focus that, and bring that up. I will bring up the play. So it goes to black screen when it's switching modes, and it takes a long time for the camera to kind of figure it out. But here we go. Let's go back to this. Oop, wrong one. I'll go back to this. There we go. So now you can see that again, nicely even. A little underexposed, but it is all nicely even. So that tells us that we have proper white balance. Okay, so that's easy enough to do, right? I mean, okay, let's not kid ourselves. It could be a lot easier. And if I look at the chat, I see a lot of people saying how much easier it is on this. I know it's easier on this. We're going to get to that. But not everybody's shooting these guys. Come on. So let's see what comments are coming up in here. So let's see here. Oh, interesting. Thank you, Ryan. He's popping something over from Facebook. John Burge is asking, do you ever find the results from gray balancing to be too much? Like they swing too far in either direction with a correction? No, because if you look at your histogram, that's accurate, right? There's no arguing with the histogram, unless there's something wrong with your camera, I suppose. But if the histogram shows you, if you're looking at something that is truly neutral gray, not something you think is gray, but that you know is gray, and you're seeing the red, green, and blue peaks all in the same place, then that's white. That is neutral. That is set accurately. So no, if there's ever a shift happening, I would think the shift would be happening because you're photographing white and overexposing it, which we're going to show. Okay, let's see here. And let's, oh, people are saying there's 50 people watching on Facebook and 37 on YouTube. Crazy. How about? Well, YouTube's up now to 42, according to my stats, but whatever. 50 in total for watching their live. That sounds more like it, John. This is why I switched over to YouTube, because there's much more interaction. And you guys, I mean, look at this, is so great. Anyway, Silly's saying you hate Canon's method of white balance, so terrible. Well, there you go. Facebook is 1 to 2 seconds ahead, John says. Yes, and the reason for that is because YouTube re-encodes the stream that I send them into multiple sizes. It sends out the 1080p, which is what I'm sending it, plus a 720p, plus I think a 480 and a 320 even. So it's re-encoding that. I have no control over that. Now, one thing that's interesting, there is a setting in the Facebook Live setup, the YouTube Live setup, where you can switch between more closer to real time, which is better for interaction, which is what we're doing here, or which is a lower latency, or but potentially more buffering, or one where there's no buffering, but there's going to be more delay. I forget what they're actually called. Doesn't matter. The default is the one where it takes longer for the stream to get to you, but in theory, that's a better quality by the time it does. I always forget to turn that thing, to switch that. Now, I switched it this morning. Now, we don't really know how much delayed in real time we are because I'm not reading the comments in real time, but it'll be interesting to hear from you guys if the quality is any different on the live stream, if you feel like it's been better in the past because of that latency thing. Anyway, I'm kind of babbling on here. So let me scroll through, keep on going through here. Mark's asking what live balance is. We're going to take a look at that. Cobblesticks is saying, does it matter if you change exposure after white balancing? No, it doesn't. Rightly or wrongly, I'll get gray card, move it near to the camera to fill the square and white balance the camera. Well, that you do want to do. You do want to get the gray card close to the camera, fill the frame, because that's going to give it, the camera doesn't look at the image and know, oh, that's a gray card, ignore all this crap around it. It's just looking at the whole image. So if you photographed it, well, you've seen the view from here. If I photographed a wide shot, this gray card, and then I've got purple foam in the background, black there, white there, God only knows what else, and I told the camera to white balance off of that, it might do it. It might get a white balance, but it's not going to be accurate because it's looking at the entire scene. It doesn't know that to only look at the gray. So you want to fill the frame when you're doing your custom white balance. So thank you for asking that, because that's not something I mentioned, and that is really important. Cobblesticks then says, but sometimes it may be too dark, so I'll change the exposure on the spot meter, then change the exposure to what I want for the scene. Is that a correct way to do things? Yeah, that's fine. It doesn't matter if you're under or overexposed when you get the white balance, because everything, all the channels are getting under and over. If you go over or under too much and you start getting past the pure white or past pure black, then that's a problem, and that's why we use gray instead of white. But in general, it shouldn't matter if you have to bring it up or down a little bit to do that. Trevor says, when I can try to use a color checker passport for white balance, there's actually variations, 18% gray among companies that make gray cards. Well, right. So we're not talking about an exposure value here, right? We're talking about white balance. So it doesn't matter if it's darker gray or lighter gray, as long as it is truly neutral gray. Now that said, I've had this card for quite a number of years. I should probably replace it because this spends time outside. It spends time in the sun. I'm sure it's faded. And there's no way to say that it has faded evenly, that all the pigments in there have faded evenly. So now that you say that, I'm thinking I really, really, really should get a new one of these, because that may not be totally accurate. So anyway, so there you go. So yeah, there's another little tip. Replace these probably every few years, depending how much you use them. Okay, all right, Sully is explaining live white balance. We will be seeing that live here in just a moment. Ezen's DK is asking why I'm using gray, not white. That's what this whole thing is about. So you're going to have to jump back to the beginning of the show later on and see the original explanation. Okay, so let's do this. My histo showed it was working. Okay, I don't know if you're responding to me saying that it didn't know if you had a wide shot. The histo showed it was working because the sample shot that I did was wide, but the shot that I used to calibrate from was tight. That was filling the frame. If that's not what you meant, then sorry, I'm misunderstanding you. Okay, so let's move on. So now we're going to take this the other direction. We're going to go white, and we're going to do this incorrectly. Okay, so that's white. I'm going to use the same white balance on here. I'm going to put this in a manual so that I can force this to overexpose. Now, this is the part of the demo where I say this is very, as seen on TV, oh my God, infomercial, oh, I can't possibly drink out of this cup without spilling kind of a thing, because you gotta work hard to mess this up. But it is possible to do. So there we go. All right, I'm going to I'm going to get my ISO out of auto here and do oops, wrong button, one of these buttons, there we go. And I'm going to do a overexposed image of this to do my white balance. Let me set this back to auto white balance. So I'm basically starting over. I'm going to take a picture of the white card to do my white balance. Okay. And let's see, I think, let's see, we're going to make sure it's really nicely overexposed. All right. I'm going to photograph this. I'm not going to put it onto live. That doesn't matter. Oh, well, we can. I still have it turned on. Okay. So there, that's live. So I'm going to point at the camera, at the white thing, take a picture. The white thing, that's a technical term, by the way. So the white thing, I've taken a picture. It got really hot. It doesn't matter. And if I look at this picture, play this. Here we go. Okay, that's pure white, right? It's, God only knows if the white balance is right, but it's pure white. So that is white. You see the exposure, 1/6 of a second of 2.8. I'm going to do another picture here. Let's go back to the camera mode. And I'm going to change the exposure bit. Come on, there we go. I'm going to change the exposure. Let's see here. Bring it up to like a 160th of a second. Take the picture again. Wait for it to come back up. Hit play. Wait for that to come back up. And survey says, boom, come on, go faster, Canon. There we go. Okay, so there is underexposed. Now this is not accurately white balance. Remember, this is the picture I'm going to use to set the white balance. So it doesn't matter that it's not right. This kind of data is what the camera will use. It will look at this and go, okay, I need to shift red this way, green that way, blue that way to create a custom correct white balance. From this picture, it can do that because it's dark enough that you have all of that data in there. But if we look at the previous picture, it does not have all that data. The picture looks white, but we don't know if the red, green, or blue is pushed off. And we can clearly see by this that it is, right? If we look at the same image, I didn't change any white balance settings on the camera, way overexposed it, it's all I did here, it pushed the white balance, it pushed the red, green, blue way beyond. So now that I have these two pictures, let me go back into the custom white balance mode, bring up the menu, come on, work faster, there we go. And go back to here, I'm going to go custom white balance. I'm going to first choose, this one, the super overblown one. I'm going to hit OK. And it says right away, correct white balance may not be obtained with the selected image. So this is the part where I say it's a little infomercially because the camera is telling me, hey, dummy, this isn't a good picture for this. So the only way that I can really make the mistake right now is to ignore the error message and push onward, which is what we're gonna do. So I say, okay, busy, please wait, set white balance to the custom mode, go back there, set the white balance to the custom mode, boom, so white balance is set. And now let's get a nice wide shot, and you can see already the white balance. I don't even need to take the picture. You can see the white balance is completely wrong. So that is the inherent risk of what will happen if you ignore the warnings and move on with a incorrectly photographed white surface. If it was gray, it'd be a lot harder to do that. That is the crux of why we want to do it with the gray instead of the white. Fair enough? Pretty easy, right? So now let's take a look at, I'm going to swap out a couple cables here. We're going to look at the Lumix camera and see how that does the white balance, because honestly now I'm just showing off because this is so cool. It's so much cleaner than what you just saw in the Canon. And if Canon is doing it differently now, then please tell me. If it isn't, then prepare to be blown away if you're a Canon user. And I have no idea how Nikon or any of the others do this. Alrighty, let's get my screen up so I can see what's happening here. And let's see, we're gonna go, yeah, we're in manual mode, that's fine. White balance setting. Okay, so let's show you what we see here. So menu, I'm gonna pull up my menu system here. No, wrong button, that's not what I want. I want to pull up the white balance. So the white balance, you see at the bottom, I know it's a little bit small down there, but you see at the white balance, first of all, there's that same custom white balance symbol, but I have 4 presets in there. And then I can still do Kelvin, auto, yada, 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 et cetera, through all those. Okay, we're just gonna grab any one of these. We'll grab number 2. Actually, let's grab something that's way wrong. There we go. Number 4 is pretty off. You can see that's quite warm on there. And now all I have to do is I push up the up button, select white set. I point it at something that should be white. I hit the set button, takes the picture, calibrates, and we're done. That is all there is to it. And now I have something that is, I got a really long lens on here, so it's hard to do a test picture, but you can already see that, let's get into autofocus, that the white balance is accurate. That white is accurate. And that is the big difference between doing it here and doing it here. Sorry guys. That's your live set. So that's what Sully was talking about live. All I have to do is I say, do a custom white balance, point it at something white, push the button, or gray, push the button, and it's done. So same thing, I would normally do it obviously with the gray. Same thing, done. If, I think, let me see here. Let's go back to this. And I'm going to try and force the Lumix camera to do it wrong. I don't think that I can. I think it'll just say, ain't going to work. But let's try it. Let's see here. I'm in manual. Let's go for a really long exposure so that it is clearly overblown. Open the lens all the way up. Yeah, so this is massively overexposed. Let's go even more massively overexposed. Okay, so now we've got massively overexposed setting on the camera. I'm in manual mode. I'm going to go back to white balance. Let's switch over to the camera again. I'm going to, you can see as I pointed everything, it's overexposed. Just grab another set, do set, and push the button. And there you go. It says unable to proceed. The scene is too bright. So the Lumix just says can't do it and doesn't do it, whereas the Canon says you shouldn't do it but still lets you do it. So that's really the difference there, obviously, and then all the steps to get into to do that. Okay, that is what I wanted to show you guys today. I hope that was interesting, educational, and not entirely too dumb. Let me scroll back through the comments here because there's a whole bunch of stuff flying by here. Let's see here. Sully says, oh, okay. So, Sully says he just realized if you turn the phone sideways, the comments show up as bubble overlays. That's cool. I don't think I knew that either. Nice. Have you ever used an Expo Disc white balance tool? Mark, excellent question. I have one. I never figured out how to make it work right. I actually have that on my list of topics for this show, is to dust that thing off, figure out how it works once and for all, and do it. So I know a lot of people swear by it. So I will do that. Now that you've asked about it as well, it is on the list. I will get to it eventually. The Expo Disc, for those who don't know, is the thing that you put over the lens and then photograph something. I don't remember, you're supposed to point at the light source or exactly how that works, but to calibrate white balance. So there's that. Okay, here's another question from Facebook. John Burge says, I asked about overcompensating because I'm always using gray balance in controlled studio portrait situations and yet don't typically like the results on skin. Might be the way my 5D Mark III renders skin tones maybe, or perhaps I favor a warmer bias. Yeah, that could be too. In fact, just yesterday, I did a studio shoot and I did my white balance and it's neutral. I know it's right. but I felt that it was a little bit too cool. So I did a little warming on it. And one of the things you can do on the Lumix cameras that is super cool with your white balance, let me get out of this mode here, and we'll go back into normal exposure. Okay, let me bring this up. So I go back into my white balance settings, and let's say that this is accurate, but I'm feeling it's too cool. You notice there's the up arrow that says select white set, and the down one says adjust. So I tap the adjust, and now I can add in a little warmth, little coolness into the image. So it's white balance with a little extra warmth to it. You can do that however you like, which is really, really cool, I think. So there's that. Phone's ringing. Pretty slick. I like that a lot. Goodness gracious, stop. Okay, next questions. Let's see here. Silly says, Mark, Expo discs are good in a pinch, but their design is flawed by nature as they tend to have gradients, which can really give you the wrong white balance. Interesting. Thank you, Sully, for that. Caleb says, is there something wrong with the live preview mode, or is it not something you can do on Canon? No, I was doing it. That's what I was doing on the live preview mode on the Canon. I can't do the live white balance set. On the Canon, you have to take a picture first and then use that picture to set the white balance. On the Lumix, you just point it at something white and say calibrate, and it does. But the live preview mode, when you saw me looking through it, that's what I was doing. That's the power of mirrorless. Yo, yes it is. So much faster than Canon or Nikon. I love the Panasonic. Well, thank you, Sully. I clearly got a fan in there. Love that feature. Makes it easy to do white balance. Absolutely. Jess asked, do you have a recommended resource on putting together a photography tools starting kit? Adding a gray card to my list. Also, can you recommend a flash for the GH5? A starter kit. I don't have any particular resource. I would imagine if you just Googled something like top 10 accessories every photographer needs or something like that, you'd find all kinds of lists. I suppose I could do my own at some point. I don't have time right now, but it's a good idea. I like it. Remind me at some point. As far as the flash, I have the Panasonic flashes, the 580s. I have a few of those, and they're great. I mean, actually, they work perfectly fine. The interface is rubbish, but they do work. There are third-party lights that work with the TTL mode on the flash. I've never used them, but I know that they're out there. So I can't say how good or bad they are, but they are out there. Usually when I'm shooting strobe though, I'm shooting all manual, so I don't really care about the TTL. TTL is great for a lot of things, but if I'm in the studio, I'm shooting with pro photos that are all manual, everything's manual. So that's just how I work. And then it doesn't matter who makes them. As long as it outputs light, good quality light, off you go. I like pro photos because they're kind of awesome. I like buying good quality gear. That's just one of those little, it's so easy to skimp and spend lower money because you can always find things for cheaper. But as any of you who've been in this business for a long time know, just don't do it. Spend the extra money, the better gear, the more expensive gear is usually the better gear that usually lasts longer. That's just general rule of thumb. Anyway, okay, GX8 manual says to use a sheet of white paper. Well, it's written by engineers, not photographers. What do you want? Zachary says, pre-ordered my GH5 yesterday. Bonus, will be asking lots of questions in the future, and keep watching. Hope you got the referral link. Oh, well, if you bought it with my referral link, then I certainly did. Thank you very much for that. Okay, that's that. I wanted to show up another screen, but I can't. I'm down one computer right now. It is off for service. It was making a weird fan ticking noise, and it was bad. So Apple's got it. That was Apple is calling me right now, hopefully to tell me that they fixed it, and then it's on its way back to me. But right now I'm down a system, so I can't even pull up my proper cards. So I was gonna tell you, if you want more information like this kind of basic white balancey stuff, I have a course called Photography 101 on lynda.com. Please do check that out. The code, if you just go to photojoseph.com/Lynda, that'll take you to a URL where you can get 10-day free trial of lynda.com. If you are already a member, go to photojoseph.com/photo101, and that'll redirect you to the Lynda course. Okay, that's that. That's everything. Lots of great comments today. As always, thank you so much. I think we're going to call it. We're out of here. See you guys next time. Bye-bye.